if I enjoyed what they did, it doesn't matter to me what they did elsewhere.
Well, no. See, we don't agree with what he did, but we also understand and recognize that mental health and brain injuries are a serious matter.
Absolutely. And the thing is, give me a second here. I just wanted to kind of get my thoughts together. WWE has never acknowledged that. In fact, they've went on record as to denying that Chris Benoit ever had a concussion while working for them.
And yet doctors came out and said he had a brain of, I believe it was a 3-year-old?
An 80-year-old Alzheimer's patient.
Right.
I went the wrong direction. Guy had how a guy can function, with, a brain that, the guy had dementia. Clear and simple. So,
which was definitely caused by repeated concussions. So, if you have concussions, get it looked at. It is a very serious thing. So, and I feel like I might want to apologize to people who might have taken my comments out of context. I just happen to, if I enjoy your work, I try to just put what you've done to the side so I can continue to enjoying it. That doesn't mean that I, forgive these individuals for the heinous things that they've done. But I can go off and I can put aside my judgment. I do not believe it was worthy of stripping any recognition of him or any acknowledgement that he even existed. Well,
the thing is, sadly, he was a black mark in professional wrestling.
But he was also a black mark that they caused themselves.
Well, but the great thing about that, and we're definitely getting off topic here, is that really opened the door because WWE started becoming very much more concerned about drug use. You can't even use synthesized marijuana in WWE anymore, which is perfectly legal in the United States. In some states, but WWE has absolutely no tolerance for it. If you're caught using steroids, supposedly. There's some cases where you wonder about some of the people, bigger stars, and but you're supposed to get suspended. What I find funny is that on a couple of occasions, WWE has chosen not to suspend somebody until after they've had a big match. There was a case with R-Truth who was suspended for synthesized marijuana. But he was in a matchup along with The Miz to take on The Rock and John Cena at Survivor Series a few years ago. And so they waited until the day after that matchup at Survivor Series to actually suspend him. So,
it's a common thing.
It seems to be, there is a bit of a double standard there.
Oh, it's the same with a lot of things. You look at some football squads, it's the same thing. Like, if you're caught using steroids in your last year of college or university before you're signed into a football squad, it really doesn't affect you. They can't suspend you. You're just put into a drug program. It's the same thing. But anyways, big news in Spider-Man.
Absolutely. Let's get on to some happier news, or at least I think it's happier news.
I am still on the fence on it. I think it's another sign of Sony getting what they want.
Okay, so we actually spoke about this a couple of episodes ago. Sony and Marvel are at odds as to who they were going to get to play Spider-Man in the new Spider-Man movie that the two companies are working on together, and will apparently have a cameo in the Iron Man Civil War movie, which is coming out next year.
Captain America Civil War.
Yes, Captain... What did I say?
You said Iron Man.
Okay. So, you're right. It is Captain America. Anyways.
Now, when he says the two companies working together, we use quotations on that?
Well, yes, we use quotations on it. Sony is paying for the movie. Marvel, supposedly has creative say on it, but they didn't apparently have creative say on the signing.
No, it basically, when you look at the relationship between Marvel and Sony,
Sony is basically the younger brother who throws a hissy fit when he doesn't get his way, and the big brother gets scolded to the point that he has to go and agree with what the little brother said.
Yeah, pretty much. But anyways, so Tom Arnold, I mean, not Arnold, Tom Holland.
You need to look at your notes.
No, I've been struggling with this all day. Anyways, I don't know. Tom Arnold, I hate you. I hate the fact that when I'm trying to say Tom Holland's name, your name comes up instead.
Tom Arnold.
Yes, he is our Will Wheaton here.
Wheaton.
Yes. But so Tom
Wheaton sounds better.
Yeah, it does. Arnold. No.
Wheaton.
Yes. Okay, but so Tom Holland is the new Spider-Man, which, I mean, at least
we finally have a name to it.
At least we have a name to it. I think the reason why it took them so long to actually come up with the decision is because
Marvel kept saying that we have creative rights, so we should be able to choose the actor.
Well, that and the fact that they weren't too panicked about Civil War because he's supposedly only going to have a small role in the movie. So they could have taken as much time as they wanted because all they've had to do is get him to come in for a couple of days at most to go off and do it, if it really is a cameo.
I see, the thing, though, is you got to look at it this way. Yes, it's a cameo, but you're also preparing Spider-Man for the big moment.
Yeah.
He does play a big part in Civil War.
Yeah, well, he plays a big part in the comic series Civil War.
Well, yeah, if they're able to get the proper character in a movie, and I definitely think leading up to it, they need to have the background storyline of Spider-Man ironed out. Ignore the fact the previous ones. Pretend they didn't even exist.
Well, going back to that, I was actually thinking about this earlier. And I mean, I brought this up in the past. If they could have had Garfield as the original Spider-Man, which probably wouldn't have worked because he probably was like underage at the time.
See, what I don't agree though is how they continuously change the storyline. Now all of a sudden, it's middle school again, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, and this is good because the high school Peter Parker, the angst, a lot of that stuff. Though what I would have loved. I mean, if I could
stick with the storyline.
Well, the thing is, I'm sort of hoping that they sort of, manage to have both Gwen Stacy and MJ Watson, Mary Jane Watson in this.
But see, you can't have Spider-Man involved with the Civil War if you have them in middle school.
Well, that is why they have like creative license to go off and change things. I mean, come on, if you look at a lot of the things that they've done. And, I mean, even the Marvel, movies where they have creative control, it doesn't exactly go, according to what happens in the comic books. I mean, going forward to the Guardians of the Galaxy Part 2, in the comics, his father is, like, this imperial, like, president of a territory, but they don't want to have some, like a-hole. They want someone different.
You also have to remember, this isn't Marvel doing it. Marvel may have their name on it, but this isn't Marvel. This isn't Marvel's decision as much as Sony wants them to think they have a say or decision. This is all Sony. Sony needs a perfect paved road in front of them to be able to do anything. If they start to have to think, it's like the end of the world. Sony cannot think.
And it is really interesting, though, because Sony has put up certain guidelines for this. Oh. It actually came out a few days ago that there were certain rules that Marvel had to go by.
His name has to be Peter Parker. There's no other name.
Well, I mean, that's because they've went off and they've completely destroyed the Marvel Universe and started it. So there's actually two Spider-Mans, and one of them is not Peter Parker.
Yeah, he is Miles. I believe the new Spider-Man, as opposed in the comic books, which actually is a good read. Give it a try. Read it with an open mind. It's a lot different. He's an African, but it's a very good storyline.
Well, going back to that, according to Sony's rules, he has to be Caucasian, and he cannot be gay.
Yeah. He also, for some reason, he has to be in middle school. Don't understand the reasoning behind that.
Again, it goes back to, when you're in high school, there's a lot of teen angst, which they're hoping will add some drama to the movie.
Middle school. This is like before high school.
Well, and here's the thing. Tom Holland, he's 19 years old. So
playing a 14-year-old.
Well, if you look at, the cast of 90210 or Beverly Hills or whatever, those guys were like in their 30s and they're playing like 18-year-olds.
But this is a beloved comic book.
And that was apparently a beloved TV series. I don't even like Beverly Hills, but, somehow people, absolutely adore it.
Beverly Hills don't even like Beverly Hills. But, you can't mess with a good thing. Sony's had two cracks at it. They have failed both times.
And that's what kind of scares me about this. Is that, here we are, when they went off and they redid and made, The Amazing Spider-Man, as much as I love, Andrew Garfield and Emma Thompson's, I can't get it.
I honestly don't remember the name of her.
And as much as I loved them in the roles, in the lead roles,
the chemistry
was great.
Storyline was awful.
Everything else was kind of subpar. I loved what they did in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
I actually did not see the second one. The first one ruined it so much for me that I could not watch the second one.
In the second one, the Green Goblin, who was actually Harry Osborn, as opposed to his father, Norman Osborn, drops Gwen Stacy, and Peter tries to save her, and and he isn't able to, and so she dies. And it's done almost exactly the way it's done in the comic books.
Didn't Gwen Stacy come before Mary Jane?
Absolutely, and it was funny because they actually were going to have Mary Jane Watson in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, but figured it wouldn't work.
Yeah, so, okay, if Gwen Stacy came before Mary Jane, then why are you having Harry be the Green Goblin after his father when they had the father with...
Again, they wanted to make everything different. They went off and they completely screwed with, the origin story. Just to go off and to try to make it different.
So, anyone who's actually looking forward to the new Spider-Man, ignore everything that came beforehand. Start brand new.
Please.
We think we are.
It's like a friend and I, we went off and we watched... We saw the first 3 X-Men movies, and then I saw X-Men Origins Wolverine by myself, and I called him up afterwards to rant about it because we both complained so much about it. And he says, "You know what? You have to walk in there with an empty mind and just forget that you actually know anything about comic books."
We've entered a stage where the only thing that people can do is to take comic books and do what they classify as creative freedom, which is basically taking a comic book, cutting out little strips here and there, and then slapping it together.
Well, going off and changing, origin stories and stuff to try to bear fit into a movie so they don't have to explain a lot of stuff.
See, that's
like in the original, Spider-Man series, they didn't want to go off and explain, that Peter Parker was a genius. And so they just went off and had him as part of his ability to be able to shoot webs out of his wrist instead of making the web shooters.
If you do Spider-Man right, you don't have to explain that he's a genius.
Well, you shouldn't have to. I mean,
you
it
can
should
easily
be
just show it.
Exactly. And so, I mean, and for me, what I'm kind of hoping is they're going to go back to high school. So, Peter will get his abilities. There will be the angst of, trying to deal with school and with his, trying to hide, his changes to, his Uncle Ben and May. And, and trying to figure out his powers,
Yeah, see, like, they complicate Spider-Man way too much. Spider-Man is not a complicated character. He's not a complicated thing to play. it's the people directing it and people writing it. And Sony does not have